Good day, everyone. I am Pangkuga City Marisna Sultan, together with Alayna Paginagina. Our assigned topic is about analyzing scientific papers and research paper. So firstly, when we talk about scientific text, it is refers to any written text that contain information of concept, theories, or any other series of topic that is based on scientific knowledge. So, scientific scientists and researchers communicate their result one to another through scientific articles. So, this term scientific articles is used interchangeably refers to a manuscript such as journal paper, research paper, scientific article, and many more. To make their communication effective, the manuscript must have a standardized structure or format so that authors can present their findings and ideas in an orderly manner. So, according to Day and Gastel, scientific writing structures generally follows a specific format with a case section such as an introduction to a particular topic, a description of method, a key result, and finally a discussion that ties to our broader knowledge of the topic. So most scientific papers are organized in the same way, which they follows an emergent format, namely the abstract, introduction, method, result, and discussion. We have provided here an example. So as you see in this example, it appears here a one paragraph, which is our abstract, followed by the introduction. So here, it introduces here the main topic. It gives summary of the related research. It explains or formulate a problem to be solved. It explains the hypothesis and the main purpose of the study. So after introduction is our method. So the method section establishes a credibility of the result by showing how they were obtained. Scientifically, method is renamed as experimental or procedure, or could be material and method. And there are also times that this method section is placed after the discussion section. So next one, what did the study find is presented in this result section. So the result of the experiment is presented with a data collection, usually contain a figures or table. It explains the result without interpretation because accordingly, this is to let the reader think of the meaning for themselves. So finally is the discussion section. So it explains here the result. It compares the result to the previous or related study, whether they contradict or agree to that study. So the conclusion may attach to this discussion or may have a separate section. And of course, the very last part is the reference of the studies. So scientific writing has a distinctive style as well. So they are being clear, being succinct, and being precise. So first, let's begin with being clear. So firstly, research finding should be stated in a formal or simple English sentences. Usually in literature or writing novels, writers use a metaphorical or flowery language to attract the reader, but in scientific papers, such language is avoided. So because the language of science should be formal, straightforward, concise, and brief. So using such complicated or decorative text may mislead the findings and the reader may not understood the message properly. Second is the use of jargon. So using jargon without explanation can make you unintelligible to the majority of your reader. So though some jargon is yes unavoidable and not every scientific term needs an explanation. However, don't assume that your reader knows what you are testing for or what kind of test you are doing. Therefore, scientific test terminologies requires an explanation. The same goes with the use of acronym and abbreviation. Though acronym is very useful at certain circumstances, especially in avoiding writing complicated phrases in full, so you can use acronym. However, if you're going to use an acronym a lot, consider at least writing the abbreviation at first using them. Next one is being succinct. So scientific writing should be brief. It should not be
complicated and confusing. And to meet this, firstly, you have to keep your paragraph short. So the idea here is one idea, one paragraph. Secondly, avoid using redundant phrases. For example, instead of saying necessary prerequisite, you can simply write prerequisite. Thirdly, avoid using unhelpful or unnecessary verb when you are writing, especially when you are describing what you did. For example, instead of writing the analysis of the DNA was performed using electrophoresis, which you could simply write the DNA was analyzed using electrophoresis. Lastly is being precise. So choose your words carefully when you are writing science. There are some words that is misused scientifically, so we have to be cautious about this. An example of this is the use of because and since. So you have to know, for example, that because is used when you are referring to the cause or to the reason of an outcome. Meanwhile, since is used when you are referring to the passage of time. Moving on to scientific argument and evidence. So we often envision argument as a disagreement between two or more parties. However, in scientific writing, argument is refers more exclusively to the case you are building. It's either against to a particular idea or an explanation for which you have a supporting information or an evidence to straighten your claim. Your evidence is realized from the data that you collected or gathered from your experiment and observation, supported by the citation from related studies to justify and to straighten your claim. Scientific used evidence such data collection rather than beliefs or opinion because a data can be re-examined and retested. However, opinion or belief cannot be empirically verified.
So, good day everyone. My name is Siti Alarina ng Puminagina and I will be discussing the technical language and the two types of consideration that will be discussed later. What is technical language? So, it refers to the specific terminology or jargon employed in a particular field or discipline, and it is also the language and shared understanding constructed over time within that field. So, it is how a certain word was being used in a particular place or an idea that makes it new for others to understand the meaning or the use of that word. And also, this specific terminologies or a jargon is a specialized vocabulary that coined for complex idea in a particular field. Even every field, either science, math, or many more, have their specialized terminologies. So just like in science, they have their own terms such as the scientific names a of an animal or plant or whatsoever, and they also have their mathematical terminologies that is related to computation, and also in English we also have different terms that is also in linguistic that is very hard for others to understand. So this three field has their differences when it comes to terminologies. So an example for this is the test. So in what we have read with my partner, the scientific research paper contains a lot of the word t-test. It is a scientific research. It involves computation. T-test is a statistical test that is used to compare the means of two groups. So moving on to the um, cultural and ethical consideration. So the first one is the transparency and openness. So the researcher has to be very transparent when it comes to their study, starting from their objective, the process of their study, and also the result of their study. For us to understand the full research paper. Then another one is the accurate citation of sources, title, content. So in conducting a study, the researcher have to the researcher have to cite their sources for them not to penalize for them not to be penalized um, in plagiarism. And so the next one is the accuracy of reporting of studied data. So upon doing the research, the researchers must present the result of the study specifically on what they have gathered, such as their sources, and may it be statistical related. And also, it is for us to know what is the result of their study. That is why they must be careful not to include insubstantial information that can cause misunderstanding in the future. So the last one is the ensuring the consent and privacy. So the researchers must be very careful when it comes to the identity of the respondent, as they guaranteed that the safetyness of the identity of the respondent or the person they had to deal with their experiment, such as their face, names, and even their original voice must not be shown to the public. And most importantly, they must ask first the respondents consent if it's okay for them to be featured in that study before to proceed in the study. So that is all for my discussion.